basically been working on to create a book, and it's called Keeping My Head Covered. And it's just a little intro, and it reads, being one who has struggled with self-esteem, validation, and my biggest beast, depression, I often wondered why would God give me such a gift of creating an accessory that would cover the head. Millinery or hat designing is the one thing that brings me peace and quiets my racing mind at times. My cross of depression is under the umbrella of mental illness. Oftentimes has shown up as my Goliath, as reflecting on the story of David and Goliath in the book of 1 Samuel, being a man of small stature. To be exact, I position myself as David to be the victor of this Goliath called depression. And years ago, when I had that breakdown, that's when I had to start really talking about it more.
What triggered that breakdown?
That was the rejection from my friend who I had fell in love with. And it's just, everything just started oozing out, and I couldn't hide it anymore.
So, but it is something that you had, depression is something that...
It started as a kid.
Right.
I really believe, I hate titles and stuff, but
Right.
I'm sure that I struggled with some post-traumatic stress as a kid.
Yeah.
My home was toxic.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was abusive. I seen him hit my mom. I'm the kid that seen, being the eldest of 5 at the time, well, 4 and 5 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I seen more, I remember more, and I remember details.
Yeah.
Whereas my sisters, they don't remember too much.
And so you carried that with
And I carried that forever. He gave me, so I was just telling my brother last night, he growing up, his presence gave me such anxiety.
Yeah.
And I remember that anxiety even as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
He made me feel like I had to be this macho kid.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I couldn't do certain things. I mean, I was only a baby pretty much, you know.
Right.
And this is like 4 and 5 years old, and I remember this stuff.
I remember the Ernie.
I was telling you about going to school. My Aunt Bonnie gave me a Ernie doll from Sesame Street,
Right.
stuffed animal, and I was taking it to class for show and tell. I was in 1st grade,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember sticking it underneath my coat and clutching it because I knew he couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Now, to be like 5 years old and know that, or 6 years old and know that says a lot.
Yeah.
Sure enough, Ernie falls out as he's walking me to school.
Mm-hmm.
And he says to me, what is that? And I said, that's my Ernie. And he said, why are you taking it to school? I said, I'm taking it to school for show and tell.
Mm-hmm.
He said to me, you're not taking Ernie to school today for show and tell. So I went to school, came home, looked all over for Ernie. He had threw my Ernie out.
Wow.
I mean, just like little things.
And you couldn't even voice your frustration or your hurt with that.
No.
What'd you do with it as a child?
I don't know. I called my grandmother, my mom's mom, my rescuer, because I spent a lot of time with her.
Mm-hmm.
Being in a house full of girls, it was like she was the one that I was go over there over the weekends. Her and my grandfather's house, and my Aunt Tracy lived with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my escape. And where there was so many other kids in the house, and though my grandmother had all these grandchildren, it was like 30-something out of us.
Mm-hmm.
And she always made me feel like I was the only one.
Mm-hmm.
She died in '89 in my 11th grade high school year, and I was devastated. I didn't go to school for like 2 months.
Wow. Because that was your sanctuary.
That was my, yeah. I remember when she was in the hospital, and it's so crazy. I was sewing a button on this duster I had made in Miss Sibley's class, and there was a knock at the door, and my aunt came to the door, my Aunt Barbara, and she was looking for my mom, and my mom was at the mall, and she said, Mom just passed. And that's crazy. And that day I was saying, I don't care how I get there, but I'm going to get up there to see my grandmother.
Yeah.
You know, I remember the look that she gave me, because what happened was my mother went with her to the hospital, to the doctor, and my mom's a nurse, and they put her in the hospital for an irregular heartbeat. My mom seen things change, and they told her to put her in ICU, and they didn't. She had a stroke. Then when she had the stroke, we went to go see her. She couldn't really talk, and she looked at me. I was standing at the door. She was in her bed, and there was no verbal communication, but her eyes said everything.
Yeah.
And it was like she was saying, if I could just tell you, you know. And
How old were you?
I was 15, 16?
Oh my God.
16. I had to be 16 because I graduated 15. I was 15. That was the same year that I contemplated suicide.
You think that was the first trigger for you to die?
No, because it was a trigger before she died. But it left a hole.
Yeah.
And I tried to fill it with whatever I could. The thought of her, I couldn't even go to the house for a long time, even to see my grandfather. To think of her, it was like I would lose my breath. But yeah, she was my rescue. Yeah. And it's crazy because when I contemplated, it was because of her and my mom that I didn't. It's like I actually seen a vision of the pain that they would go through.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't do that to them. Even though I'm with this pain, I can't do that to them. And then she was gone.
Yeah.
You know? So, but now I just have this one person left that I have to stay here for.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to put her through that pain. I watched my mom take care of 5 kids by herself on a nurse's salary. And I was very intuitive, very nosy. I would take bills and put it over the tea kettle to open the bills up to see how much was needed or whatever.
Finesse with yours.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know where I get all of this stuff from, but that's what I would do, and then close it, seal it back. I would steal just so we could make ends meet. I remember one time she was at work because she would work as a nurse somewhere else, and then she would do private duty somewhere else just to make ends meet, and it still wasn't enough. It was a great job. She made great money, but it wasn't enough for 5 kids. I remember going to Walbounds, and there wasn't much in the house, and I remember going to Walbounds supermarket and shoving like a pack of bologna or something down my pants and getting on my bike and going back home. And if my mother asked me, where did you get that from? Because she would ask questions. I would say, oh, I did some work for such and such, and they gave me some money, so I went and bought it, you know, stuff like that. I remember one job I had, fast food restaurant. Oh my God. And I would I took some. The phone bill was due, and it was like the last bill was like the cutoff or something. And I remember taking money out of the register at work and giving my mother $100, and she knew at 15, 16 that I wasn't making that much money at you know, at this fast food restaurant, you know, to give her. So she asked me, was I selling drugs? I was hurt to my heart that she asked me, was I selling drugs? Meanwhile, I was taking it out of the register, you know. But whatever it took, I did to try to help my mom. And no one ever told me that I had to take on the weight that my father left. but nobody told me I didn't have to either.
Right.
And I got lost in my role as a son and a brother, and became husband and father. And I took on that for so many years, where it was hard. I remember the first time I ever had to tell my mom no. It killed me, because she needed to borrow some money, and I'm like, okay, if I give her this, then what do I have for my stuff? And I had to tell her no, and I had to learn that it's okay to say no. And but I just felt like no to me, to her, was like a big deal. Where it probably didn't even faze her, She would figure it out. I remember getting a job at Department of Social Services. I was there for 4 months before I resigned. And out of all the places I had to be in was housing. And most of the time, the people were homeless. A lot of people came from Katrina. So they were, sent to New York or wherever, displaced. And the agency had a way of making everyone feel fraudulent, like they were fraudulent, like it was their money. And I didn't, and it would be amazing to watch a client come in with their guards up, and then as we proceed to talk, you can just see them just coming down. Because my thing was, I remember my first week, I went home and I called my mom and I said, Mom, I can't believe you went through that when you needed help with us.
Yeah, you could see from the
And
other side.
it did something on the inside to me where it was emotional. And then I felt like God forgot. I'm like, if you can't give me this in my career, then give me a significant other that I can share my life with, because it becomes so lonely sometimes. So I'm not on the same wavelength as the average 45, almost 46-year-old. And I'm like, I did all of this stuff. I went to school. Like I told Courtney, I said, if I hadn't met you, I would have never went to school. I would have never got my degree. And she said, oh, don't downplay it. She said, because it is an accomplishment. I just had a client that came here 2 weeks ago. And this one I was like I was okay, but I was a little all over the place in my thoughts. And this woman purchased 6 hats. Wow. It was the biggest sale I had probably since I've been here, in one time since I've been here. And she paid about $2,200 worth of hats. And she said to me, and she hit me up on Instagram, and she said to me, she stood right there, and while I stood over here, and she said, just when you would think that God had forgotten about you, he would send little old me. And I was like, this woman, I said, I tell you all in my business, and you don't even know my thoughts, and it's true. She found me on Instagram, excuse me, and she couldn't get on my website, and she hit me up and she said, are these pictures on here for likes or are they for sale? Because I can't get on your website. And I texted her back and said, emailed her back and said, no, by no means they're for likes. Everything is for sale, I don't get caught up in the whole thing. I just use the social media as a vehicle to show my work. And but that just showed me that, you just never know when your turn may come, And I always looked at time. I felt like I was always running out of time. In the quest of trying to define myself and validate myself and become this man, I felt like I needed to do certain things. Not only as a man, but as a black man. I sat in church depressed. I sat in church wanting to commit suicide. But every day that he gave me a little bit of hope, I would try to show up for that day. And some days was harder than others, Going to church, I dressed it up. I had my suit, my shoes, my socks,
Tell
my
us about
ties.
that, because you had a way of you're protective, I can tell.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, even if it's from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had a way of kind of protecting those around you
Mm-hmm.
by keeping yourself meticulous.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that, the struggle between what you're feeling inside, like you say, you go to church and this is what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing outwardly could convey that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that I could imagine was isolating in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you play that out?
It was most people never knew, but I have this one pastor, and I said that she would always be my pastor, and that's Pastor Phyllis. And I was drawn to her ministry before I even met her, and she was the only one that would like minister to me to the point where, not that I didn't have others, but she was the one that would pray for my heart.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would shut down and I would become so hardened. And she said she would pray that my heart would become soft again. And but what I would do was, if this was all together, they couldn't see what was going on the inside. One, I didn't want the attention. Two, I didn't want to burden anybody with my stuff. And then when it became unbearable and I couldn't do this anymore, I would hide. So I would disappear, you know. But everything was immaculate. My haircut, my hair,
I can see.
my this is nothing. This is nothing to back then. This is nothing. My shoes, I was known for my shoes. My suits, my ties, my shirts, everything was perfect. But I was a mess on the inside. There was so much brokenness that I didn't want anybody to see it.
At that time, you know, what we talked about, feeling alone in this, and there's no way not to feel alone, right? Now, when you were in church, someone could be sitting right next to you, going through exactly the same thing, and they would see you and be like, there's no way, it's not possible that he's feeling what I'm feeling, because you were so together, right?
Yeah.
What happened, or at what point in your life did you start to say, you know what, I gotta open up?
That was fully, 10 years ago. 10?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't help it. It was coming out through my body. I was in seminary. I was being licensed as a minister, and it's like all hell just broke loose. And I was losing 5 pounds a week, to the point where I lost 45 pounds in 2 months. My sneakers were flip-flopping off of me. I remember my friend Connie, because I would go to her and she would give me a pedicure. We went to the same church. I call her my sister. And I remember her giving me a pedicure, and she cried as she gave me the pedicure because she could see the weight loss even in my feet. And it was just a bad time. And a lot of people thought I was suicidal, but I wasn't. And it was such a difficult time that I told everybody what I was experiencing, because I didn't know what else to do. And for the first time, I had in the middle of being in seminary and being licensed as a minister, I had a friend, and we were thick as thieves, like brothers, and there was such a comfortability with us. A lot of things that he possessed, I recognized in myself. Self-esteem issues, father abandonment. His father was present, but he still wasn't there. Labeled, you know, because we weren't the type of dudes that was sleeping around with everybody or didn't have any kids. And we were like brothers, and then all of a sudden it changed. There was an attraction. And I was like, God, why is this happening now? You know, while I'm about to go into ministry and do this work for you, and then you would make these people right, because I know I was labeled, you know, from the beginning. My dad, the way he treated me, I never even knew it, the word, and it's such a derogatory word, I hate the word, but the word faggot is like, I knew the definition by his action before I even knew the word. Some of my cousins, I hate to hear them, because they used to pick on me, and I hate to hear one say it to kids now. I'll never forget, I was, I'm jumping around a little bit. I was getting a manicure and a pedicure one day on my lunch from work, and there was this woman, she probably was in maybe her late 40s, early 50s, and she had this kid, handsome little boy, maybe about 6, and she was talking to him so bad, and it took everything in me to keep my mouth shut. And I remember that past bubbling. You left. Why do you want to know anything? And I'm an adult man now. I don't need parenting now. Right. So why you? My question is, you never asked me, son, how did you make it without me present? Wow. How did it affect you? Those are the questions that you should be asking me. You know. Yeah. I remember dating, and I used to be afraid to date because I didn't know whether or not that I had this this thing in me that where I would abuse my woman, like my dad, seeing that my dad abused my mom. You know, I love my dad. I just don't like him. I understood his stuff for a long time. And then something made me pause and say, wait a minute, you don't have to understand this shit. He was the parent, you know? I understand his mother died at 12. He didn't really have his mom. My grandfather owned a cab company for over 50 years. That kind of took precedence over everything because he was doing his business. So, you know, my dad got low, and my dad's the oldest of 3 boys. But that had nothing to do with me either. And my thing is, and I know we all think differently, but if you were painful with your dad, wouldn't that make you at least think for 1 minute to do a little bit better with your son?
Break it down for us, because see, you're in a lot of places now where so many of us are trying to get to. During our initial conversation, one of my first questions to my therapist was, does this end?
Yeah.
That darkness, that bleakness, you know, and he was like, yeah, that's what I need, because he was so sure it was going to end. So you felt yourself going back into this darkness, and you were familiar with that darkness, and you couldn't do it again. And so what were the things that you did proactively for yourself?
One, I had to relearn. I had to unbuild, destroy everything that I knew. The only way I could describe it is taking down every brick that I built up. I had to take it down, and it was painful. Coming here, what happened with me was I moved in such a place where I knew no one really. So I had no one, because I would find people that I would find projects and people. So I had no one I could fix. I had no one that I could rescue. So I thought, so I only had to deal with me. And it was painful. It's scary as hell. Yeah. It hasn't been easy. I'm going through a thing now where I'm dealing with anger and my temper, and I didn't even know that my temper was as present and as bad as it is.
What about that? Like, what was your awakening toward? How did you say, okay, like this is an issue for me?
I was working in the leasing office here in my building, and this guy came in, and he was just, excuse my expression, but he was an asshole. And I'm giving him all of this information, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? You know? And I remember putting my hands underneath my desk because I'm trying not to let him see me lose it. Right. But I'm trembling. And all I'm seeing is me grabbing him by his collar and pulling him over the desk. And but I held it. And once he left out of the door, I lost it completely. I kept punching my hand to this ring, went flying across the room. I actually thought I broke my thumb because I was punching myself so hard. And the reason I kept punching myself because I destroyed things to keep from hitting people. Because I said I never want to be my dad. I never want to put my hands on anybody. And that was a wake-up call for me. And that happened in June of 2016. I went home for my birthday for a week in July, and I was telling my mom, and she said, "You know what that is?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "It's my dad's temper." So when I came back, because I lived here, I worked here, I'm here working in my live workspace all the time. I don't have too many outlets. I don't have too many vices. I don't party. I stopped going to church 10 years ago, pretty much. So this is it. So it was an expensive investment, but it was necessary. There was a guy who moved in, him and his wife, and I hired him as a trainer. And I had to physically leave this area to go somewhere else, to go to him to train. And it helped because it got out that aggression.
What kind of training?
Personal training, physical.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so it was, weights, cardio, and what I liked about it was one-on-one. So I still had that male bonding with him and I, even though I'm older than him, he was like a big brother,
Right.
So that helped. Talking about it is liberating, it's cathartic. I've always been one to monitor myself. Like what am I feeling? I probably overthink sometimes. My therapist said to me, he said it's so funny. He said you're so in tune with your stuff, and I said I have to. I have to, because I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay in this place that I'm in. Now the scary part about saying that I'm in a good place is, and I usually be there's times that I'm fearful of saying that because then something happens.
Right.
And a lot of times when you talk, and even talking about stuff, things become surface. So sometimes you do fall back into that dark place,
That's an important thing that I wanted to be touched on before. Matter of fact, that place is going to come back. Oftentimes, when that place does come back, for as hard as we work to be in the good places, and that place comes back, it can feel like a failure. Like I didn't fix this, or I didn't fix, you know what I mean? And then it comes crashing down because it's more compounded.
Yeah.
Right? So the place that you are in, and the openness that you are in, you've already helped people just by your own hands. Until God gives you what you need to fix it, but you need to fix it. Right? So how do you tell them, okay, I took the step inside myself, you did a whole lot of work. And some people are not going to survive the work that you did to be where you are.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work, and I almost didn't make it through my work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so right now there's somebody that's going to be like, they're willing to do the work. They already knew that they're supposed to. So break down for me how, in your manner, to go about doing that work.
First, you have to be honest. You have to be honest. You have to be willing.
Yeah.
And you have to be honest with yourself, with the hard stuff. You have to be willing to look at all the nasty stuff, that you've been dealing with for all these years. Like my stuff, I had to go back to even childhood, you know,
Yeah.
and deal with stuff.
You had to dismantle bricks that were put on you
Yeah,
that weren't even yours.
and that's what I found out
Right.
while doing this work,
Mm-hmm.
is that half this stuff wasn't even mine
Yeah.
in to begin with, you know, to begin with.
Right.
It's scary, it's lonely, it can be lonely. When I moved here, the assistant manager, Courtney, her and I are like the best of friends right now, and it was ordained for us to meet. Courtney's seen me do a total 360. She's seen me at my worst, and now she's seeing me at my best. And I'll never forget one, because it started off me going in the office, paying rent. I would pay rent like 3 months in advance, you know, because I just never, as an artist, I just didn't know when that next check was coming. And we would laugh, and then I would sit down and I would talk about heavy stuff, and she would get up and lock the door, so there was no interruptions, and we would talk, and she shared with me how she struggled with depression as a kid, and I lost weight even here, and for the first time since I was 15, I contemplated suicide twice. One, it was on a Tuesday. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and it came to me twice that day. That for the first time, and the reason why I didn't do it is because I thought of my mom. It would kill her. Then I thought about, you know, I love people so much and worry about other people so much that I didn't want the people in the building to have to do the cleanup and the financial of flying me back to New York and packing up my things and stuff like that.
That's how much of a nurturer and provider you are and protector.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to when I said in the beginning, almost, you protect people even from yourself.
Yes.
You can't even go when you feel like going because you're always looking at the pieces and how it affects someone else. That could be a tremendous burden in itself.
And I'll take medicine if I have to. Most of the time, I'm so in tune with myself that I know when I'm treading water and I may need to go back to therapy. I'm the poster boy for therapy. I tell everybody.
What are some of the triggers that you would see, like, okay, you're going about your day, right? And recognize, like the bad neighborhood I was telling you about, right? To say, okay, it's time for me to go back to therapy. Like, how do you, what led you to the point where you could recognize your own neighborhoods, you know, and to say, okay, it's time for me to go back?
I got so many triggers. And one thing can make everything bubble up for me. It could be financial. Rejection. Like I said, my biggest two things is rejection and validation. Even with this whole social media thing, I don't get caught up in the likes. And then when I see myself getting caught up in certain thing, I step back or comparing myself, because that's not what these hats is about, you know. I'm one that if I'm things are going on, I lose my appetite. I don't eat, and that's one of my main key points of monitoring myself. My appetite and wanting to lay down in fetal position.
You said you're a poster child for therapy.
For therapy, yeah.
Now that's not easy.
No.
For our community.
No.
Right. So, how did you first start pushing yourself to say, no, I'm gonna make that phone call. I'm gonna go.
My doctor, Dr. Panton. Back in New York, Jamaican woman, young. I think she's younger than me. She 1 month she was telling me. She said, "Listen, we're gonna have to talk about this. you're losing weight, or we're gonna have to put you on prednisone for the asthma. And I was like, Dr. Pan, I can't get on prednisone. 2 months later, she sees me and I'm 45 pounds lighter. And to the point where they're calling me and I'm sitting in the waiting room and she didn't even recognize who I was because I had lost so much weight. I looked like a kid. And right away she said, okay, because I was calling myself a vegetarian. And she said, this vegetarian shit, we're gonna stop today. She said, because you're not good at it. She said, second, she said, I'm referring you to psych. So she sent me to psych. And the counselor, the caseworker was right across the hall. So I go in there and because I didn't tell Dr. Panton what was really going on. So I forgot the lady's name, but I could see her face so well. And she said, what's going on? Talk to me. So I started telling her, and I'm bawling, you know, just crying at the seams. And she referred me to my first therapist, or second. First one for this time. But and she said, I got the perfect person that I want you to go to. So I meet Dr. Grantham, and I was pissed right away. Because when I seen him, I thought this guy was gay. And
she's talking about the perfect
and
person.
I was like, did this woman just give me? I'm telling her what I'm going through, and I'm being, you know, organic and authentic about everything that I'm going through, and she's gonna give me some damn gay therapist. And I was like, I said to him, I was very guarded, and I had already made up my mind. I'm not telling this man none of my business, and I'm not coming back. I'm just going there because I was told to, and that's it. So I said, can I ask you a question just like that? And he said, you can ask me anything. And the first thing I was going to ask him was, are you gay? Because I needed to know. I thought I was being set up. And then, and it was so ignorant. But I didn't know. I was in so much pain. You know. And then it's like a piece of me came back the way my mother raised me. And I said, never mind. And Dr. Grantham wound up being like one of the best, and he's not gay. He wound up being one of the best therapists that I had. And I went a few times. I remember when I was telling someone from the church, I can't even remember who it was. And there was 2 different incidents. I told somebody I was going to therapy, and they were saying, oh, that's a spirit, and you know, it's the devil. And I looked at them and I was like, well, you hold on to that, because I'm gonna go over here and get me some help, because something ain't right. You know? But I was so it was horrible, because I was altered in the way I was. I remember a friend of mine from school told me, he said, Otis, you don't always have to be the nice guy. And I was like, really? Because I always thought I had to be the nice guy. And the same person who tells me this, one day I couldn't be the nice guy to him. And I was like, the same person that told me you don't always have to be the nice guy couldn't take it when I wasn't the nice guy, you know. But because I went from one end of the spectrum to the other. I went from not saying anything to now saying too much. So now I'm trying to get to this middle ground. I was telling Courtney too, one day I was cleaning, and I said I miss who I was. It was necessary for me to go through what I went through. I would not, if I had to change anything, I wouldn't, because it built character, it built integrity, it built a testimony, and it showed me that I was much stronger than I thought I was.
So that journey is necessary.
It's necessary, yeah.
The brick by brick, the step by step.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I was so angry with God for so long because I felt like he was taking away everybody from me that I loved, you know. To the point where I would be scared to even pray for anybody because either they would walk out or they would die. You know, I miss my high school teacher so much. I was just sent a message to her daughter, Miss Sibley, and Miss Sibley was the first person that I told that I was contemplating suicide. And that woman, she had to have enough faith and assurance that I was going to be okay, because she never reported it. She made sure that
She took it on for herself.
yes, she took me under her wing. They used to call me her protege in school. I was in her class room every day on my lunch. Then the following year, I was in her class as a student. Her daughter, myself, and a few friends, we used to be in her class till like late at night, just sewing.
So one of the things that people can learn is to open up. Like right now, you're trying to find the middle ground again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you opened up. I don't think you'd even have that relationship or had given her the opportunity to be there for you if you hadn't been in the space and you just needed to tell somebody.
Yeah.
So it's the risk.
Yeah. Yep.
The risk of being vulnerable to be saved from it, right? To be helped, to be healed, to be walked through.
Because even now, even though like I said, I'm in the best place, which I am, but even with that is a price, because if I'm honest, I still kind of hide and isolate because I'm trying to protect what I have because I need it.
Yeah.
And we're in such a time where there's a lot of entitlement. People are selfish. When you tell them your story, some of them will prey on you instead of pray for you.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's where you have to use discernment, and thank God I have that gift. A lot of times I mess it up
That's so important, what you just said.
because I'm overthinking, and I say to myself, well, no, it's just you're overthinking, and people change. And then when, excuse the expression, the shit hits the fan, I'm like, you seen that a mile away, but you didn't listen to the first voice,
Right.
you know? So I'm learning to listen to the first voice.
Now, just when you say, okay, I don't want to go back to that place because something might happen, it's going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
Right.
It recently almost did. And I allow myself to go there, but I try not to allow myself to go too deep.
Yeah.
Because I know if I go too deep, then it's like really hell. Because just maybe a week or two ago, I was just evaluating myself, and I could feel something going on. And all I wanted to do was go and lay down in fetal position. That's one of my things. And if the sun is up, I'm not getting into bed unless I'm sick. So I know that was something right there. Even if I've been up all night, like last night, and I'm tired, I still don't lay down. But I wouldn't allow myself to go in the room and get in that bed. Then I was saying to myself, I have these conversations with myself, and I'm like, okay, I'm saying I'm in the best, in a great space, but I had to leave what was familiar because I was getting depressed again, and it scared the hell out of me, and I didn't want to go through that again. How can I say this? Am I actually looking for this pain because it's familiar and I want to sit with it? You know? Am I sabotaging myself? You know? So I ask these questions. And then I was like, no, I used to always apologize for who I am. I don't do that anymore.
That's a big step.
Yeah. I used to want people to validate me. I was telling you how I would buy people gifts and give people, whether it was my time, my money, or gifts or whatever, because I felt like if I gave them, they would love me or they would like me. I could give two shits right now. Because at the end of the day, when you really, 10 years ago, that showed me who really was in my corner. And I just talked to a friend of mine who's like, I call her my sister. And I'll never forget, I was driving around and it was a bright sunny day, but I felt like it seemed like I was just in a fog. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I would go to my mom and break down, but I just didn't want to go to her this time and just break down and let her see me like this again.
Right.
So I went by Karsha's salon, and Karsha was in there. She was doing a client's hair. And as I'm walking up to her, she's looking at me and she sees my face and I'm about to break. And she grabbed me real tight and she ran out the shop. And I just fell in her arms, and she said to this day she'll never forget that cry. She said it hurt her to her heart, and she said, "Why are you dealing with this by yourself?"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I had spoke to, and I'm not trying to kill him, because it is what it is, and some people don't know how to be there for you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to, because I was angry for a long time with the church. I couldn't even listen to gospel music. I wanted to hate all of them. I wanted to put them all in the same thing.
And so I come in here and I see this absolutely sacred thing. The place becomes holy when we make it holy. And just now when you're talking about why God had left, I was angry at God. To me, that was a brave thing to do, was be angry. Because I was waiting for the ground to open up, you know what I mean? I couldn't help but think to myself, in this sanctuary that is yours, only one like it in the whole entire world. And when the darkness comes and you go and you let your hands work, I cannot help but think God is sitting right next to you. Your silent friend. And it's just, one of the things I found so beautiful too was in the beginning of the conversation, we talked about how to kind of mask, you keep yourself meticulous.
Yes.
Right. Which is very great. It's interesting because a lot of times when people spiral, they go the opposite direction.
The opposite way.
Right. Me first. I will go in my little flip-flops. My inside outside sweats. I just be all up in our
And I kept all of that stuff up.
Right. But you did.
Yeah.
Now, when I transitioned from that part of our conversation to how you let yourself work, you let your hands work, and now to see this, the head covering, the thought processes that you try to protect other people from, and try to protect yourself from exposing. The poetry in that is incredible, and to see the church that you have built when the outside has let you down.
Yes.
This is as real and as sacred as it gets.
That's why when I moved my even though I was gonna miss everyone, giving up my design studio was the hardest part. I cried like a baby, packing almost every box. Even the way I got the studio, I was actually working that day, and I grabbed a friend of mine who works on the job, and I said, "Come with me to check out this spot." And we drove. We weren't supposed to. I took the village car, went and checked out the space, and I asked the guy as we were leaving. I loved the space. I loved the exposed brick. It was only 125 square feet, but it was perfect for me. 24-hour access, everything I needed. So I turned around and I asked the guy, and I said to him, I said, is anybody else looking at the spot, at the space? And he said, yeah, but Otis, just go home and think about it and then let me know. Don't worry about it. And I heard, just as I'm talking to you, Do It Afraid. And that was one, I was touring with my god sister back in '96, and I woke up and Joyce Myers was on the television, and she was saying Do It Afraid. And this was back in '96. So moving forward, this is 2011, you know, and I hear Do It Afraid. So I said, I'm gonna write a check so I can to hold the spot. And he said, okay, but you don't have to. And I wrote the check and gave it to him. I moved in. I made all these bright colors because I knew it had to be bright colors. I was always afraid of color, even though I liked color. I used to stay with the earth tones and dark, you know. And I said, no, this needs to be a happy place. I called it my sanctuary.
Right, sanctuary.
And I had polka dots on the wall, decals, and orange and green, you know, red. And I remember doing a soft opening, and I invited all these people. I bought all this wine, all this cheese, crackers, everything, you know. And I was doing, because the space was so small, I only did it in increments of like 10 people at a time. Even down to the wine glasses, I got little cordials because I didn't want anybody to leave intoxicated and get in an accident. So I'm being conscious of all these different things. Not one person showed up. And then the one person that did want to come had a handicap where she couldn't come up the stairs. And we only had a freight elevator. At the time, I wasn't comfortable enough, but I could have let her get on the freight elevator. I wasn't sure. I didn't know that then. But not one person showed up. And a friend of mine, I told him, and he bust out laughing. And I was pissed, like, why are you laughing? And he said to me, Otis, that is the beginning of the story of your greatness. And I was like, what? I was pissed because I spent all this money and this time and then nobody showed up. But then later I got it, you know? So I'm just like, I try not to go into that vein of feeling forgotten. Sometimes it's hard, you know, because you do feel forgotten. And I plan so well. You know, I plan things so well. And I know God's plans can be totally different from ours. But right now I'm learning to, and I said all of that to get back to this, like the degree and being Mary Jane. I'm starting to pausing to learn how to enjoy the moments.
Because they don't look like what we were conditioned to think that they should look like.
I'm so up here that I never got a chance to enjoy here, you know, because I'm trying to still get here, you know. But
I mean, Queer Eye was at your door. That's
they
not a story
they
anybody
came
can tell.
here,
You know what I mean?
And I haven't even watched that yet.
Wow.
Yeah, it
You know,
is.
sometimes like I feel bad and I want to cry, but I can't. And to me, that's a illness for me because I know if I could, it would be.
Cause talking about Miss Italy and my grandmother, those two kind of choked me up, you know.
Yeah, your grandmother choked me.
Yeah.
Now, you're saying some moment ago, right, about discernment, which is important because we're not telling people just go out and talk to anybody. You know, and use judgment for it. Your first persons that you were saying, like sometimes things will manifest, but you talk yourself out of it. You'll say, I'm overthinking, right? Or that's just in my head. And then when it comes to fruition, you're like, well, if I would have listened to myself in the first place, that first voice, that first feeling, that is your guide, your intuition, your spirit, right? Now, first feeling, that is your guide, your intuition, your spirit, right? Now, your ring, this is like one of my favorite stories about you. This is the most healing part for me, is your commitment to yourself
To myself.
to be the friend
Mm-hmm.
and protector for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you come through this world protecting everybody from everything, including yourself,
Mm-hmm.
at a sacrifice to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which ends up putting you in situations. If you would have listened, if you would have listened to, like, okay, Kim will talk me out of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Right? She'll be like, well, maybe. You don't need to be going 150.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that she loves me
Mm-hmm.
and has my best interest at heart.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to that voice,
Got you.
right?
Yeah.
When you were saying of yourself in the beginning, I'm overthinking it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just, and then later on, it comes about
Mm-hmm.
by the commitment that you took. You take us there where you finally said to yourself, I'm actually going to listen. I'm actually going to put me first. I'm actually going to be that first
Mm-hmm.
friend to myself.
Mm-hmm. That I had already started before I moved here.
Yeah, with the symbol of
When 10 years ago, when I was going through the whole situation with the breakdown and losing the weight,
yeah.
I went to just to get out, just to do something. I went to this jeweler I know, Saul,
Mm-hmm.
where I got my bracelet, my earrings,
Mm-hmm.
had a herringbone, and I seen this ring, and it just stood out amongst everything that was in that case. And what happens is it has like a weaving of white gold and rose gold in it,
That's beautiful.
and in that intertwining, there was a message there for me. I don't even know the message clearly, but I knew there was a message in there.
Mm-hmm.
And when people stop me and ask me, "Oh, you're married?" and I look at them and I'm like, "No, I'm not married," because I was like, I gotta explain now, you know.
Yeah.
But what this ring represent for me was to wear it on this finger, so that I can learn to love myself, especially to the capacity that I love other people, because I love other people more than I was loving myself,
And to protect yourself.
and to protect myself. So, and it's been what, 10 years I've had this ring, and I've worn it on this finger ever since. I don't leave the house without it. I don't sleep in it, but as soon as I get up, I put it on.
Is it serving the reminder, like, say you find yourself in a situation and then that first voice will come, instead of dismissing it, do you now, you can look at your ring and be like, wait a minute.
And that's what recently happened to me. I looked at the ring one day and I said, "You forgot. You forgot what this ring represented."
Right.
You know, so that made me go back to what I needed to start doing again. I remember one day Courtney, she was in her office and I came in, and I was struggling bad, and she just looked at me, and Courtney's not one to get emotional, and she said, "Oh, you're enough."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this woman just said everything that I'm feeling. On the inside, because I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like I wasn't present. I felt like people seeing me as being, I thought I was presently absent from people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And those two words were so empowering for me. And for somebody who doesn't even know or been in my life that long, knew the words to say, you know. God, I lost my train of thought. I got emotional.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
But it's a lot of work. It's not easy. It's painful. And I'm learning to enjoy the good moments. I remember Courtney saying to me, she's like, "I can't believe you got your hat on, Gabrielle Union on Being Mary Jane. And I would say, oh, that was yesterday's work. I gotta keep going. We talked about me getting my bachelor's, and she was like, that's huge. And I'm like, whatever. I would shut things down.
Yeah.
And I finally watched Being Mary Jane with the episode that she wore my headpiece. And it was so ironic but divine how my headpiece was worn for a scene where Gabrielle, well, her name on the show is Mary Jane, where Mary Jane's friend Lisa committed suicide. And Mary Jane is over on the podium giving her remarks about Lisa's life. And I laid in my bed and I just cried. I was like, God, you're awesome.
Right.
You know? I'm a self-made man. I don't let nobody chump me. I'm probably in the best place in my life right now than I've been in a long time.